Hello, everyone, and good evening, and welcome to Blossom's Workforce Academy. It is again that time for our series of informational videos led by myself, Paul Sturdgess, your local and friendly educator. Today's evening topic is about food safety. With the Thanksgiving season and our festivities fast approaching, we wanted to do a little video just about how to keep yourself safe with food safety. But also, this is an opportunity for us to reach out to our food service providers locally because of recent changes to the Florida Administrative Code, Chapter 64E-11, and how those changes affect us in the food service industry. Now, here at the Academy, we do offer the Certified Food Protection Manager class through ServSafe, and I'm an instructor and proctor for the National Restaurant Association. So these are sample tidbits that come through if you complete the ServSafe Certified Food Manager program. But I wanted to share with you some really important information and really important updates that have happened most recently. As you know, I like to do these videos live, and everyone is welcome to write a comment, ask a question, and I will try and answer it the best I can. If you're watching this after the live show, then don't panic. Please do the same thing. Put your comments or your questions into the section, and as soon as I'm able to, I will send you a response. So good evening to everybody if you're joining us now, and good evening to us, everybody, if you're joining us later on this evening or even tomorrow. So let's move forward. We all want to eat good food, don't we? We all want to eat healthy food, food that has been safely prepared, so that we are free from potential foodborne illness. That none of us want to experience the signs, symptoms, and the consequences of foodborne illness, which is absolutely horrific. And it's bad enough for us, younger generation, where our immunity systems are a lot stronger. But if you think about our susceptible populations, such as our elderly or even our infants and our very young, whose immune systems are not as good, they're not as developed in our younger generation as what they are at our adulthood. And similarly, when our seniors reach their ages, their immune systems aren't as strong, so they're compromised. So they don't have the ability to fight off foodborne illness as well as what we would. So it's really important, especially if we work with those highly susceptible populations, that we really think about food safety in terms of how we prepare it, how we store it, how we serve it, and keeping everybody as free from foodborne illness as possible. So let me start out with some facts, some did you knows, okay, because that's always a good place to start. So millions of Americans suffer from a foodborne illness each year, and ill food handlers are a major cause of foodborne illness. So the people who are preparing the food for us to consume, whether they know it knowingly or unknowingly, can be a major cause of foodborne illness. And generally, that's because of poor personal hygiene practices. So it's a lack of hand washing, okay, not cooking the foods to the correct internal temperatures. Somehow or another, human intervention often causes foodborne illness, or even a lack of human intervention. People can spread many different types of illnesses to others before they even know that they are sick themselves. Proper hand washing, including proper hand drying, only removes about half of the disease-causing germs present on your hands. That is why no bare hand contact with ready-to-eat food is so important. So we want to optimize the opportunity to really look after our personal protective equipment and washing our hands and making sure we use proper personal hygiene practices, it's still no guarantee. So we have to make sure throughout the food service, throughout the preparation, throughout the cooking processes, that we are doing what we can optimally do to prevent foodborne illness. We also need to think about cleanliness within our kitchens. One of these did you know facts is that viruses can live on surfaces such as refrigerator door handles and food preparation tables for up to 48 hours. So if we don't clean and sanitize our food preparation areas, our surfaces, our fridge doors, inside our refrigerators, microwaves, all of those food contact areas, then potentially we're leaving ourselves open to the harmful bacteria that could grow and cause a foodborne illness or viruses. We often refer to in the food service industry as pathogens. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to talk to my food service providers out there, my restaurants, my hotels, my assisted living facilities, my nursing homes, anybody who provides food, serves food to the general public or to the highly susceptible populations. There were some recent changes to Chapter 64E-11 of the Florida Administrative Code. And so I want to share with you some of those changes. So for those of you that don't know, 64E-11, the Florida Administrative Code, is the code that we follow in terms of food service and food safety. It's one of the codes that we follow here in Florida, and that is the one that's had the most recent changes. So within the definitions, every chapter of the Florida Administrative Code, whichever subject it's pertaining to, will always start with definitions at the beginning. So they've changed a couple of the definitions. So whereas we used to refer to certain foods as potentially hazardous foods, so they're the ones that if we consume are most likely to potentially cause us harm if we don't prepare and serve them according to the proper instructions or according to the proper practices. They're the ones that could cause us the most conflict within our bodies and lead on to foodborne illness. So they've changed the potentially hazardous food is now changed to time and temperature control for safety food, TCS foods. So that's whereby it suggests that both time and temperature are really important in the preparation of those foods. It in fact stems right back to the point of storing the food, making sure that even when foods are delivered, that they're delivered at the correct temperature. If you have food providers that bring in your foods, you want to make sure that when you're receiving those foods, that they're being received at the correct temperatures, because temperature has such an impact on food. We often talk about foods being cooked to the correct internal temperatures. For example, chicken, we want to make sure chicken, which is a poultry, that's cooked to an internal temperature of 165 degrees. But we also need to think about how we store food and making sure that we are keeping food outside. We do not want it in the danger zone. Okay, so we don't want it in the danger zone. There were some fee changes. I know that doesn't seem relevant, but for some of you that will have an impact. So the movie theater inspection fee changed to $190 annually. The temperature for hot holding, and when we're talking about hot holding food, that means, for example, if we're doing buffet style dining and we are holding the food at a temperature and we want it held at a safe temperature. It used to be that we were hot holding the foods at 135 degrees Fahrenheit, and we would want the food service staff to make regular temperature checks to ensure that it was kept at 135 degrees. sorry, 140 degrees at the time. That's now changed to 135. So it is now 135 degrees that we need to maintain for the temperature for hot holding. One of the major changes is in terms of the manager or person in charge responsibilities. And I'm going to read you directly from chapter 64E-11, and it's under point 012, where it says manager certification. And this is where the biggest changes in terms of managerial responsibility and overview of food service has now come into compliance, and in terms of how much training staff need. And this is a good thing because when we're talking about food service, the best way that we can prevent foodborne illness and we can promote best practice within food service environments is through education. If we educate our staff, if they're aware of our policies and procedures, the way that the flow of food, and by flow of food, we think about from market to table, if you like. So that flow of food, how does it get stored? How does it get prepared? How does it get cooked? How does it get served? All of those are elements of the flow of food. And it's important that our staff understand how their actions and can impact food service within the food service industry. So education is so highly important to all food service staff, and now there's more so of an emphasis on this with the person in charge of food service or the certified food protection manager. So I'm going to read you this directly. So all managers who are responsible for the storage, preparation, display and serving of foods for the public must have passed a written certification test which complies with section 509.039 of the Florida statutes within 30 days after the effective date of employment. Those managers who successfully pass the certification examination will be issued a certificate which is valid for a period of 5 years from the date of issuance. We're talking about our certified food protection managers or certified food managers. So for example, through the Serve Safe program, once you've completed your training and you've gone on to do your online examination through the National Restaurant Association, your certificate is then valid for 5 years. So that's an example of the type of certification which they are referring to. It goes on to say all establishments must designate in writing the food service manager or managers for each location. Establishments that serve highly susceptible populations. So this is where I wanted to bring in about our assisted living communities, our nursing home communities into this, because this is a really important part. So establishments that serve highly susceptible populations or have 3 or more employees at one time engaged in the storage, preparation, display, serving of food must have at least one certified manager present at all times when said activities are taking place. All other establishments must have a certified manager or managers responsible for all periods of operation. But said manager or managers need not be present at all times. So really look at the language, especially if you're in the assisted living communities. This might be something new that you've not heard of before, that you need to take action on to make sure there is a good coverage of certified managers across your communities for food service. It then goes on to say, it is the responsibility of the certified manager or person in charge to train or ensure the training of all employees under their supervision and control who engage in the storage, preparation or serving of food or cleaning of equipment, utensils or food contact and non-food contact services, and to do so in accordance with acceptable sanitary practices as described in this chapter. The trainings must be annual and provided to employees by the 31st of March of each year. So you need to build into your training plans to make sure that all your food service staff have their training, their annual training, okay, by the 31st of March each year. And I just want to give you some indications of the training topics, and it does go on to talk about what training topics are required, but in brief, they must be able to understand Chapter 64E-11 and what it incorporates in terms of personal hygiene practices, looking at the ways food should be stored, how it should be labeled, how it should be cooked, looking at very specifics like how you should thaw foods and we'll come on to talking about thawing foods later on when we talk about your Thanksgiving turkey. But how certain processes within food service should be undertaken. And this is about developing the skills and knowledges and competencies of your food service staff. We want them to know exactly what is going on, how to do it, and if they don't, who to go to, how they find out that information. So one, they need to know about Chapter 64E-11. Personal hygiene, hand washing, the importance of clean clothing, jewelry and hair restraints, okay, including gentlemen now who have got beards. You know, we want to make sure that they've got their beard guards. We want to try and prevent cross-contamination at all times. Food service personnel responsibilities. So they want to make sure that food service personnel know duties of their job, that they understand the safe methods of thawing, cooking, cooling, handling, holding and storing foods, that staff are aware of proper sanitizing and cleaning methods for the food service establishment, maintaining equipment and establishment premises. And when we're talking about proper cleaning and sanitizing, we're also looking at, do your staff understand how to clean up? And it's not a very nice topic, but do they understand how to clear up vomit and diarrhea, for example? Okay. And if you go onto the Florida Department of Health website and look up about food safety, there are some great posters. There are some great posters of great information in there which will help you comply with all the new standards. So, for example, when we were talking about vomiting and diarrhea, there is a great poster on there on how to clean it up. Okay, what you need to do first, the steps you need to take, the different concentrations of bleach to the water depending on the situation. Okay, so please make sure that you use the website, the Department of Health website for Florida, as a resource. There are tools on there which help you to fulfill your responsibilities. Now, why I draw out those points is because with these new changes, when you have your health inspections, whatever food service establishment you might be in, they are going to be now looking to ask you questions about this. They're going to want to see training records to reflect that the certified manager or the person in charge, the PIC, is actually compliant. So they're going to want to see the training records, making sure that staff have signed to say that. And they actually, and here's an example, on the Department of Health website, they have even done for you a staff employee training sign-in sheet. So they've tried to be as supportive for you as possible to come into compliance with these new expectations. So again, just to summarize, they want to make sure that you've got a manager and a person in charge and that they're qualified and that they've taken the appropriate qualifications to be that designated person, that you've got good cleanup policies in place for circumstances like diarrhea and vomiting, that you're doing your employee training and that you're doing it on an annual basis before the 31st of March of each year. Okay, so that's really important. Also note those changes about hot holding changing from 140 degrees to 135 degrees and look at your definitions. Okay, that's really important from a training perspective. You want to make sure that when your staff are receiving definitions and information, that you're giving them the right definitions at all times. Okay, fabulous. So I also want to talk to you about employee health responsibilities. This is really important from a food establishment point of view, that your staff are aware of your policies and procedures on how to report to you and when to report to you if there are health concerns or if they're experiencing signs or symptoms of illness, because that can have a direct impact on whether or not they are excluded from the food service area whilst they're experiencing those symptoms. We don't want people who are unwell, and we know that that means that they possibly might lose income, but we can't have them working in a food preparation area and food service areas if they are sick. So we need to remember the big six, okay? And the big six are the top six potential bacteria and viruses and pathogens that we look at in terms of what needs to be reported to the health department, or what we need to discuss from a food service point of view. And I'm not going to dwell on that too much, but I just want to give you reminders. If an employee is jaundiced or diagnosed with one of the following illnesses, we need to notify the Florida Department of Health. So hepatitis A, Shigella, norovirus, Salmonella typhi, sugar toxin producing E. coli, and jaundice. Okay, we need to report that. Okay, and we need to exclude an employee, especially if you serve a highly susceptible population, with hepatitis A, Salmonella typhi, vomiting, diarrhea, or jaundice. So we need to look at the health of our employees, and they need to report to us so we can make a decision on whether or not we're going to exclude, restrict, or whether we're going to monitor them closely. Okay, so those first ones that I gave you, hepatitis A, Shigella, norovirus, Salmonella typhi, sugar toxin producing E. coli, and jaundice, we're definitely going to report those to the health department, and we're definitely going to exclude people with hepatitis A, Salmonella typhi, vomiting, diarrhea, and jaundice. With restrictions, that means they're on limited duty. If they're not excluded but they're restricted, then they would be on limited duties. And with all cases, when you've got an employee who is poorly, you're definitely going to be monitoring closely. Okay. So just to reaffirm some of those facts, approximately 48 million people suffer, okay, from foodborne illness in the United States each year. Of those, 128,000 will be hospitalized, and sadly 3,000 of those will die. So it's really important that we know and we encourage our employees to report illnesses and encourage their colleagues to do the same. Okay, fabulous. Well, let's now talk about, it's turkey time, isn't it? So we're coming up to turkey time, it's Thanksgiving, a time for jolliness, a time for reflection. We need to do that in the best possible way to keep us safe in terms of food safety. So I've got some ideas for you. A guide to keeping yourself safe while preparing the turkey, whether it be fresh or a frozen turkey. Okay. Remember, if you're buying a fresh turkey, okay, buy your turkey as close to Thanksgiving as possible. All right. Make sure you keep it stored in the refrigerator until you're ready to cook it. Place it on a tray or in a pan, because we don't want those juices. Okay, we don't want those cross-contaminating other foods that are in the refrigerator. So my advice to you is to keep the tray with the meat in at the lowest point in your refrigerator, so it's not at risk. Even if it's in a tray or a pan, it's not at risk from dripping those juices onto other foods. Try not to purchase anything that's pre-stuffed. Okay, so if you like a bit stuffing in your turkey, try to do it yourself and stuff it. It just helps maintain food preparation in terms of we don't want to do anything that's going to compromise or potentially have compromising effects on the cooking, the preparation of the turkey, the cooking of the turkey. You know, that stuffing, you don't know how long it's been in there, how long it's sat there, how was it made. Always try to do your own fresh stuffing. Harmful bacteria, they love stuffing. It's one of their favorite places to hang out. Okay. If you're going to buy a frozen turkey, okay, keep the turkey frozen until you're ready to thaw it out. Okay. Remember, I spoke to you earlier in the session that there are different ways, obviously, to thaw, because you can use a microwave to thaw foods. You can use cold running water to thaw foods. But the best and most reliable method is to use your refrigerator. So I would emphatically advise you, make sure you keep it when you're ready to defrost and thaw your turkey, that you keep it in the refrigerator. Okay. And just to give you some guidance on the size of your turkey, if it's a 4 to 12 pound turkey, you've got to consider at least 1 to 3 days. For a 12 to 16 pound turkey, 3 to 4 days, and so on and so forth. And for a 20 to 24 pound turkey, around 5 to 6 days. Make sure that you're giving yourselves enough time to thoroughly defrost and thaw that turkey. Okay, we want to make sure it's good. Try to keep it in its original packaging as well, because we want to reduce any opportunity for any leaks. Okay. Also, just to give you a hint, always make sure if you want to know that your turkey is from a good place, it's been sourced from a good, reputable, approved supplier, then just check. There's a little stamp mark that comes on it that says inspected. Okay, and it's got the Department of Agriculture stamp on it too. So make sure that you're looking for all of those. As I said to you, you can defrost in cold running water, or you can submerge it in cold tap water. You know, just be mindful. Do it the best way possible. Keep your family safe. Use the refrigerator. Okay. You can do it in cold water, and you can do it in the microwave oven. Okay, so it's time to cook your turkey. Time to roast your turkey. Remember, we want to make sure that we're cooking that turkey for the recommended time. Okay, so make sure that you're checking the cooking instructions that are coming with your turkey. Normally it will tell you have to cook the turkey per pound. So however many pounds is however many minutes, and you multiply that up until you get the full cooking time. All right. And don't set your oven temperature any lower than 325. And the lower you go, remember, the longer it's going to take to cook. We want to make sure that that turkey is good. You'll know when your turkey is ready, okay, because you want to make sure that the internal temperature, and remember, we want to check at the thickest part of the meat, the internal temperature of your turkey is 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, 165 degrees Fahrenheit. And remember, you're checking at the thickest part of the turkey, and I would advise you to check at various points on the turkey. Don't just settle with one reading on your thermometer. Make sure you check in several points. Okay, so remember, 165 degrees. So we're looking for a 20 to 24 pound turkey, for example. It's going to take around 4.5 to 5 hours to cook if it's unstuffed. If it's stuffed, you're looking at about 3/4 to 5.25 hours. So make sure you're cooking. You're getting up early enough on Thanksgiving Day to cook your turkey. We want it safe. Okay. Now, when you are finished, as we know, there's always turkey left over. There's always a good amount of turkey that's left over. If you've had your turkey and your stuffing and your gravy and it's been sitting on the side and it's been left out at room temperature for longer than 2 hours, okay, or above temperatures of 90 degrees Fahrenheit, you need to discard it. Okay, I know it's money, but we want to keep you safe and well. So discard any turkey, any stuffing, or any gravy that's been out of room temperature for any longer than 2 hours. If it hasn't, then you can divide your leftovers into smaller portions and then refrigerate or freeze in covered shallow containers. Okay, that enables it for quicker cooling because we want to take it through the danger zone and get it to a good temperature as quickly as we possibly can. And or if you're going to store some in the refrigerator for later, okay, use it within 3 to 4 days. Don't leave it any longer than that. Okay, and if you're going to freeze your leftovers, again, use it at least within 2 months. Okay, don't leave it and leave it and leave it and think, oh, I can eat it. No, we don't want you to do that. If you're going to reheat your turkey again, remember we want to bring it up. We want to get that temperature up to 165 if you're going to reheat your turkey. All right. So 165. If you're worried about it going dry, oh my God, it's going to go dry. Just add a little water or a little turkey broth to the pan, and that will help keep the moistness throughout the meat. So our goal is to keep you safe. Remember, 165 degrees at internal temperature. Make sure you're thawing it the best way possible, which is in a refrigerator. So make sure you give yourself time for that thawing process. Okay? My goal is to keep you safe during the Thanksgiving season. All right. So, as I said to you, there's been some changes to chapter 64E-11, which we've gone through, giving you a couple of pointers. Don't forget, we do teach the Certified Food Manager ServSafe curriculum here. I am the ServSafe instructor. I'm also the proctor for the online examinations or for the written examinations for the National Restaurant Association. And if you pass, then your certificate is valid for 5 years. So I do offer that here at Blossom's Workforce Academy. So if you want to go forward, if you are an assisted living facility, a nursing home, or any kind of food service establishment, and you know you need to come into compliance with the new requirements, then reach out to me. Let's get you trained. Let's get everybody compliant. I'm happy to go on site to do training as well, so don't think you have to come to the academy. I will come to you. It's not a problem. I like to have a nice group to train because that gives us a lot of talking points as we're working through the materials. Okay, good, fantastic. I just want to give you a little update as well on today's Facebook Live. I'm actually going to be moving my office into downtown DeLand. Okay, so please keep your eye on the social media over the next 2 weeks for Blossom's Workforce Academy. We will be revealing where our new destination's going to be. And we are changing some of the classes that we're teaching. You may see some new ones. You may see some that we're currently doing that are no longer going to be run through Blossom's Workforce Academy. And we're adapting and changing all the time to customer requests. Okay, and what's working well and what's not working so well. So it's all about making sure that we're providing the best service that we can do for our customers. Okay, fabulous, fabulous. Well, it's coming up to 6:35. It's been a quiet night on the viewings tonight, but I'm sure people will watch it later on. As I said to you, don't worry. Put your comments in, put your questions in, and I will answer them when I see them. I want you all to have a really safe Thanksgiving, and we're coming up to Christmas too. So please, festive season. I want you to eat well, drink well, but keep safe whilst you're doing it, and keep your family safe. So we all have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas, okay, and Thanksgiving. I will be back with you before Christmas. I probably won't see any of you again on Facebook Live until after Thanksgiving. So please, wishing you all a very happy Thanksgiving. And I will see you all again soon on our next series of our Facebook Live videos. Don't forget, if you need to speak to me, 386-873-6064. That's 386-873-6064. And please, everybody have a safe and wonderful evening. It's great to see you, and take care. Good night.